Hey bro, what up? Today we're going to discuss should you get an DJI Air 2 or Mini 3? I mean, with the price range, you can even consider Air 2S. So the reason I'm putting Air 2 and Mini 3 into comparison is because both drones have front and back sensor and bottom sensor, of course. So they are all capable to do the tracking, the active tracking thing. So first thing first, the price. The price of DJI Air 2 fly mode combo is at 5,300 Chinese yuan, whereas the Mini 3 fly mode combo with standard RC controller is 5,800. And Mini 3's fly mode combo doesn't include ND filter. We'll talk about that later. So that will be another like 250 yuan price difference. Although you might not need ND filter because you don't need motion blur or you are not shooting something from a strong sunlight like the water reflection. Hello. Mini 3 is well known for its under 250 gram, which without the smart battery, while the Air 2 is almost 1 time heavier and the size is also much bigger. And not only the drone itself, you need to consider the spare batteries. And also for Air 2, it has power adapter to charge the battery. The power adapter is almost twice size of a battery. But for Mini 3, you don't need to worry about that. You just need a 3-watt quick charger. But your computer might use the same charger. Even if it's not, the size is still much smaller. If the storage room and weight thing don't bother you, I consider Air 2, especially the second-hand one, is a great deal for you. And at the same time, the price of the DJI Care, actually Mini 3 and Air 2 shares the same cost. Okay, so where were we? Okay, I think we're gonna talk about the RC controller and okay, about the RC controller, DJI actually launched a controller with screen for Mini 3, and it is only 1,000 yuan higher than original one. I got to say it's a great deal because even with my iPhone XS, I know it's a kind of old, but it's still a great phone, right? Even with XS, I can come across some lagging because of my cell phone is too hot or the storage isn't enough. So I would consider to have a RC controller with screen, so you don't need to worry about your cell phone. But actually, although I haven't used the RC controller, I know it is not perfect because it cannot replace your cell phone. The reason is simple. With the RC controller, you don't have internet. So if you need to upgrade the software when you are out, you still have to use your cell phone. And when you record footage through the drone, this cache can be saved in your cell phone, and you can set how many gigabyte it is allowed to save in your cell phone. So in that case, with RC controller, you need to buy a TF card. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but then to export the file, you have to disconnect the TF card, connect your computer. I'm not sure if through the RC controller you can send the file to your cell phone to edit. Even if yes, that means you still cannot neglect the cell phone. And another thing is about the editing. And I'm 100% sure you can edit the file through DJI Fly on your RC controller. But if you want to edit on some more advanced software, I'm pretty sure you need a cell phone, and the controller isn't able to handle complicated stuff because, I mean, the price is so low. Another thing is some might say, you know, with the RC controller, you don't need to worry about it if your cell phone is at low battery. But actually, with the previous RC controller, you don't need to worry about it if your cell phone is out of battery because the controller can charge your cell phone. And the truth be told, I have used it many times and the feeling is great. So in my case, I wouldn't spend the extra 1,000 just to try to replace my cell phone, which it definitely cannot. But actually, if you think it in this way, the RC controller makes it easier for you. You don't need to connect your cell phone to the controller anymore. And it doesn't mean you have wasted 1,000 yuan because at the end of the day, when you resell it, you still sell it at a higher price than normal RC controllers. So that is really quite a personal choice if you need it or not. Okay, I am gonna park here for some moment, which is not good, but I'm just gonna put away my swim bag and take my camera back. Yeah. Okay, next step, fill up the tank. 中国中铁八局集团承建. You know, there used to be a lot of train passing through, but I guess it's Shanghai COVID lockdown, so right now you barely see any train come across. Ooh. What the? You know, I'm just wondering when we will be able to finally travel to foreign country. I got a bottle of water. 哎，好的，好的，没，里面有，一会儿我来吧。Again, manual reverse. So where shall we go next? Well, the Ferris wheel. But not this one. Let's find something extraordinary. Oh, while I was talking about the weight of Mini 3, it's under 250 gram, right? I think Air2 is somewhere around 580 gram. Some might say for heavier drone with larger motor, its performance will be better at a certain height when fight against the wind. I totally agree with that. It's just that I have been using Air2 in some condition when I was shooting time lapse, and I wouldn't consider the wind strong, but still the video result is shaky. So if the Air2 cannot meet my expectation, I really don't care too much, since the Mini 3 is only half of the weight and it instead also can fight against level 5 wind. I know it won't be perfect, but I assume it should be acceptable. And on the other side, we do have the choice to not fly in a windy day, right? Only if you have to, which means you might do some commercial project. Well, in that case, shouldn't you get a 2S or Mavic 3? Whoa, nice place, huh? Speaking of the 2S, right now the Fly Mode combo costs 8,300, and for me it's almost exactly the same as the 2, but the price is much higher. You know, the difference is that it has an upper sensor, right? But the majority of the drone crash is because the drone doesn't have a side sensor. Another thing is the camera is much better than 2. But the thing is, whatever camera you have, it doesn't make your craft better. It is your craft which separates you from others. But what I have found is that for second-hand Fly Mode combo of 2S, there is actually someone selling at only 6,500 CNY. Before I talk about the recommendation of the drone, there is one thing I forgot to mention, which is both Air2 and 2S, they have the auxiliary light, which in short is a strong LED light which you can turn on at the bottom of the flight. You may consider it's not useful, but in my case, when I was very new to the drone, when I fly it at night, and especially sometimes when you fly behind the building and the battery is low and you lose the signal, and when it's doing the auto-return, somehow you get the signal again, but you don't know where the drone is. Even with the help of the map, it's still kind of difficult to see where it is. At this time, you will find the LED light super useful, but for Mini 3 it doesn't have it. Although it's not a deal breaker, but if you are a new drone pilot and fly it at night, just make sure fly it back before the 20% battery. Have more battery means you have more time to react. Okay, he blocked my way. Okay. And you know what, actually speaking about the auto-return, and Air2S does have upper sensor, but I don't think it's very useful unless when you lose the signal, the drone will ascend to designated height and then fly back. In that case, upper sensor is useful, but you should know actually in the controller you can also set what the drone will do after it lost the signal, so it's not 100% needed for the upper sensor. So now comes the conclusion. If I have never bought a DJI drone and I needed the tracking system, I would 100% buy a Air2 second hand, because right now you can buy a Fly Mode combo at less than 4,500 CNY. With that price, you cannot even buy a Mini 3 with normal controller. The only downside for me is the power adapter and the huge body, which I ride a motorcycle and sometimes I do pack them in my pack, so I do need it to relatively be smaller and lighter. And besides, I have used the Air2 for 2 years. And about the 2S, yes, I know it's better than 2, but the price, even if you buy a second-hand Fly More combo, it might cost somewhere around 6,500. So it's almost as the same price as Mini 3 with LCD controller and with Fly More combo. And the Mini 3 does have the advantage of having the battery, which can last, at least it declared can last 47 minutes. Oh, shit. In this case, because there is an arrow showing red light at 10 right, so you have to stop. And luckily, I found it out before I make the 10. The only reason I might recommend you to buy a 2S is that you don't worry about the weight and the storage room, and you need a relatively better quality because you are making some kind of commercial project. Then you might get a 2S. So what about Mini 3? Where, I think for me, Mini 3 is kind of, you have more choice. Like the battery can last 47 minutes, declared. For Air2 and 2S, it can only last 34 minutes. So there is some kind of difference. Although you might not need it, but for me, because I need to buy a Mini 3, so I will have a standard battery. But then I want to buy a 47 minutes battery. So in that case, I only have 2 batteries, but I also have relatively longer flight time than ordinary 2 batteries. Wow, that tall. Oh, I think I did miss the one thing, which is DJI care for the 2S. 2S care cost 700 CNY, while 2 and the Mini 3 cost 400. So that is also a huge difference. And see you in next video.